So I want to take a bit of time, and I've just gotten my cup of coffee, so I'm not ready to let my coffee go. So I'm going to be taking a bit of time just to draw this ecosystem for you. All right, and my colleague Johan is just going to make sure that you can see well. All right, so when we look at customer experience, all right, obviously we have the customer. All right, and let's just draw a very happy customer. Now, if we look at this customer, we often look at them through the lens of our product, all right? And if we look at them through the lens of our product, what do we see? We see, okay, how much money will they spend with us? You know, how many products will they buy from us? We usually segment them in a way that's quite neat. So I love the segmentation that says, like, you know, it's women and, you know, they are 35 to 45, which I'm going to be in many, many years. I'll be in that bracket, 35 to 45. And we neaten up this persona so much that we lose the empathy and we lose the human touch. All right. So what's really important is looking at the customer rather through the lens of their life. All right. And if we look at the lens of their life, we want to rather look at, you know, what are some of their fears? What are their needs? What is their story? What are some of their dreams? And really get human. That allows us to design well. That allows us to look at their life and look at the problems from their perspective, not from our perspective. So many companies say they're client-centric, but they keep on focusing on this lens, like how many more things can I sell to you? How can I make you love my product? Rather than saying, how can I love the problem so much that I want to solve that problem for the customer? All right, so that's the world of the customer. Now, if we look at the world of the employee, we do a very similar thing. I want to tell a short story. So I was, when I was still employed in corporate, I was very passionate about the brand that I worked for. And I always thought I was in a strategy unit, and I always thought, well, a real job is in the call center. You know, that's like, if you want a real job, you're going to find yourself a job in the call center. And I remember a position became available as a manager in the call center, and I applied for the position, and I had to apply through SAP or Oracle or one of those systems. And I came in every morning after I applied, and I would log onto the system because there's nothing else. You can't have human contact. You have to look on the system. And maybe 6 weeks into this application process, I logged onto the system one day, and the system said it was saying pending, application pending, application pending. And one day I came in and the application said rejected. And I looked at the system and I couldn't believe that that was all that was on the system. It just said rejected. And I marched myself up to the head of HR, the executive on the 5th floor where the carpets are thick and the bonsais get changed every few days. And I said, I need to speak to you. This experience is very, very broken. This cannot be right. I said, like, and listen, by the time I got to the 5th floor, I was over my disappointment of really wanting this job. And I was just saying, we've got to fix this experience. So often when we consider the employee, you know, we consider that they are a number on the payroll. And if you work at scale in big organizations, we also lose that touch with the employee. And we need to look at the employee in exactly the same way, understand what are their fears, what are their needs, what are their story, and what are their dreams. And if we do this, we will be able to design better. So design better experiences, but also design better workplaces. We spend about 30%, so 30% of our lives 30% of this person's life, their time, their heart, their passion, their smarts is spent at work. All right. And we want to make sure that that gives them joy and that they feel that they make a difference. All right. So if we really want to be human-centric, employee-centric, customer-centric, then we want to pay attention to that. Johan's signaling me and I have no idea what he's saying. Johan, you're going to have to like. All right. So he's saying I'm not looking at the camera, people. I'm just trying to understand the lingo here. Okay, fantastic. So we want to be focused on the human being and we want to look at the world from their perspective. All right. So these two people, our customer and our employee, they need something from a brand. All right. And we call this the value proposition. And that value proposition is provided by a brand. Whether it's the employee brand or whether it is a brand that I buy regularly from or a brand that I get a service from, inherent in that brand is a promise. All right. There's some kind of a promise. All right. If I buy into, let's say, I don't know, Nivea face cream. Okay. On the box, it will say you're going to have the softest, youngest skin for years to come. I always look at the anti-aging creams and I go like, it hasn't unaged and anti-aged me. I'm still aging, but I'm just embracing it. So the promise is inherent sometimes in the brand. When let's take Johan's example. Okay, so when I buy an apple, all right, aside from the promise that it's well designed for a human being, it's going to be easy to use, it's going to make me feel successful. You know, when I open that box, you know, it's just beautiful and everything's beautifully wrapped. All right, so that's my promise. So if I remember my only Apple disappointment was an Apple Watch. Okay, this Apple Watch, I just couldn't understand the point of this Apple Watch. It can't go into water. It doesn't really do anything for me. And all of a sudden, I'm going, well, it's actually not making my life easier. I'm just not getting the point of this Apple Watch. All right. So the promise is very much around how it's going to make me feel, not about the product necessarily, but how I feel about myself. All right. So this is really important, how I feel about myself. Because what we do and what many people do in customer experience, they make the experience about the brand. So the experience is happening outside of the customer instead of the experience happening inside the customer. So this happens inside the heart, inside the mind of the customer. All right, that's really important to understand. And you might have heard Corette talk earlier. So what Corette does is she gets into the heart and the mind of the customer, and she gets them to talk about what they feel and what they do. And that's how we really understand the nature of these experiences and the role that the brand and the product plays in the hearts and the minds of people. All right. So I want to quickly talk about something called essence, because that's something you're going to be looking at during this week. All right. So this experience essence, I refer to it as the perfume or the elixir, the life force of the brand. All right. And many brands that we engage with, they haven't quite articulated what the essence is. So if I strip off your name, I strip off your brand, I take your name away, I take your logo away, and I want the customer to tell me, who are we dealing with? Would they be able to distinctly recognize you without your logo? All right. And that's really, for me, the essence. So quick story. Johan and I went to Rwanda a few years back. And if you heard this story before, just pretend that you haven't heard it yet. I had to speak at a conference, and we went to Rwanda and we stayed in a hotel. And the one morning we were having breakfast, and at the breakfast table, I picked up a little bottle of chili oil, but it was in an eyedropper. And I inspected this little bottle of chili oil and it said not more than 4 drops. All right. And this little bottle was wrapped in, Johan, was it a serviette or something? And I looked at this and I go, this must be really, really hot. And I tried it and people, I fell in love. I fell in love with this Akabanga chili oil. So much so that we brought a whole stash back home. Since then, we've ordered online. And at one stage, I was so addicted to this Akabanga oil, I had to keep it in my handbag because I would actually go and eat so that I could have Akabanga, not like have food with a little bit of Akabanga. It was like, it was a reason to eat because I felt like, okay. And I do think there's a chemical release that happens when you have this chili. I do believe that there's just some happy hormones happening there. But the flavor of this is so distinct that if you remove the label, I would be able to taste it anywhere in the world. And that's really what we want to encourage you to do for your brands, what we want to encourage you throughout this week. You're going to be working on a case study, and I really want to encourage you, find that essence, and then you're going to pour that essence into everything that you design for this brand. All right, so that is this little secret bottle, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to make it. Oh, that's nice. Okay, Johan's just found the, okay, let me show you. That is a little bottle of Akabanga. And if you go and watch on the web, they've got crazy people from all over the world making videos of how they enjoy Akabanga. All right, so go back to this little bottle. This is really important to articulate what's in that essence, because you want to take that essence, you want to design it into your experiences, but you also want your people to be able, if I take the most junior person in your call center and I wake them up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I tell them, what are you doing here? Tell me about your essence. You want them to be able to articulate what that essence is. All right, everybody happy with essence? Okay, stunning. So once you've got that essence, okay, we said you want to put it into your journeys. All right, and I'm just going to draw a little journey there. So you want to put your essence into your journeys, but you also want to use your essence to like really inspire your people. All right, so that they know, listen, this is the flag I'm flying. You know, I'm really proud of this brand, and that is my flag that I'm flying. All right, so I'm going to move on just in terms of understanding here at the bottom, and you'll get a beautiful diagram in PDF. There's a whole business design. Now, tomorrow, you will be spending a lot of time on understanding that business design. Now, a lot of customer experience and employee experience initiatives fail because people haven't considered the business design. And these businesses are really, they're really complex, and there's a lot of moving parts. Now, you need to understand what happens inside the business. Who are your major stakeholders? What are some of the structures inside the business, the roles that you need to consult with? And we're pretty much going to spend most of tomorrow on that, looking at what's going on inside of your business and how do you need to engage with these role players so that you can really, truly have a great customer-centered transformation, or if you're doing a transformation on the employee side. All right, so this will become clear as we work on that. I want to quickly just talk about the journeys, and then we're gonna conclude. So if we look at, let me find some space here. If we look at our customer journey, the really important thing about the customer journey is what I call the end frame. The end frame, how do you want the story to end? All right. So if I pick up a really great book, okay, I pick up a fantastic book, and let's say it's a novel, and I want to make sure whether it's going to be worthwhile reading. I might go to the last page, or I might go to the very end and see what people have said about this book. This happens to be a phenomenal book by Dan Rome. But for my journey, it's like really going to that last page of the book and deciding, is this going to be worthwhile spending my time on? So in this end frame, I want to know, what does the customer say or do after an interaction with my brand? If I set my goal, that's my target. I want the customer to talk about my product, or I want them to talk about the experience they had in store at their dinner table. And I want them to say, sure, this was unlike anything that I've experienced. The people were so nice. They took the time. They really paid attention to me. They made sure that all my needs were met. This was a phenomenal experience. I really recommend that you go to the store. And that happens at the dinner table. Then I've successfully articulated my end frame. All right, so once I've got my end frame, I can then go and say, all right, so what is the trigger into the journey? So how do they get into the journey? And then what are my moments in this journey that will lead to that target? And for each of those moments, I will go and ask myself, what is the expectation? What is the emotion I want to evoke? How do I want the customer to feel about themselves? What can I do to exceed their expectation? And what should I not do to fail their expectation? All right. And that's really the structure of the journey. So during this week, we're going to spend the whole of Wednesday looking at the world of the customer, the world of the employee. Thursday, we're going to spend doing journey design, and you're going to go into the depths of how you facilitate it online, how you capture it, how you design it, and ultimately, how do you effect change through that process of innovation? All right. And then not to forget, for the employee journey, we do exactly the same thing. So employee journey, and if we see everyone in the organization as moving through the organization, what do we want them to say once they move on to the next job or to the next opportunity that they get? I very fondly remember a lot of brands that, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today was it not for that role. Now, at the time that I left, you know, maybe it was like getting away from the boss, because most people leave bosses, they don't leave brands. But I think if we design an experience for an employee, it should be, whoa, so-and-so set me up for success. They really had my best interests at heart. It was lovely that they set me up in such a way that I could move on to something where I can make a bigger impact. All right, so that is our ecosystem in a nutshell. We're going to be spending time on each of these. And then on Friday, we are going to be looking at, you know, how can we activate this? Because I believe the journey design is about 20% of the work. And then the activation is a major component. And so much of that activation are on the people side. So many of you come from environments that have large call centers. Some of you have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. And we need to take that akabanga bottle, that little essence bottle, and we need to light that fire in people's hearts to say, I'm here to serve. This is how I'm going to serve. My brand is clear on how I actually show up. And take an ordinary person and turn them into a brand warrior, so that they are, first of all, proud about their own brand, that they show up and they're proud of their work. And then secondly, that they love the brand that they work for. All right. So that is what I wanted to share with you. You will get a PDF download of this, and we will be elaborating on this as we continue throughout the week. All right. So if you've got any questions, I'm happy for you to put them in the chat. Happy for anyone on the live stream to give us a few comments, and we will get in touch with you to answer those questions. All right. Fantastic. Excellent. Any questions? I've just put you back on my gallery view. Just put your hand up, anything that you want to reflect on. Brenda, go for it. Cool,
Hello.
Brenda, I've just, there we go.
Okay, so my question would then be, and this I've experienced in a lot of companies, sorry, how do we get the business to embrace the customer experience and the customer service departments, because it's usually given a very low priority. As long as the customers love the brand, how they feel about it becomes a non-issue for the company. So sometimes customers will stick to a brand. I'll use an example, maybe a mobile network. Sometimes you would stick to a mobile network because of the little conveniences that the network has, but not because you enjoy the experience you're getting with that brand. So how then do we get to convince the business to give more attention to how the customer feels about the brand, what are their needs, what are their dreams, what would they want us to do for them? Yeah.
Okay, fantastic, Brenda. What a great question. All right, and everybody, you want to be taking notes now, because I'm going to give you like 30 years of experience in like the next 5 minutes. Okay. The only reason why people would change, Brenda, 2 reasons: pain and pleasure. Okay, that's the only 2 reasons that people change: pain and pleasure. Okay. If I say pleasure in business, what am I talking about? What talks in business? Money. Michael, you're right. Okay, money. Show me the freaking money. Okay, so if I know that I'm going to make more money, okay, as an executive, as a founder, as a whatever, I'm in charge of the business, okay, that'll make me sit upright. Okay, pain. If I know that I'm going to lose money or I'm going to have reputational damage, okay, that'll make me change, right? Okay, so Brenda, unfortunately, what we do in business, customer complaints, it's quite difficult with most organizations, it's quite difficult to complain, all right? And many people don't complain, okay, because the effort is just too high. So I'll complain to Johan, Johan will complain to me, but we won't actually go as far as complaining to the company. We just stop buying from them, okay? And sometimes we don't like them, but we keep on buying from them. But every time we get an opportunity, we tell friends how horrible they are. You identify with this, okay? So the next time that company does something in public that I don't like, I go, okay, you see the scum of the earth, okay? And then I might start buying from them. Now, what we do as corporates that are very, very, very effective is we love spreadsheets, okay? And we roll up this data into spreadsheets where people look at it and they see the bar graph and they go, okay, our sentiment have dipped a little bit, but it's not that bad. It's 2 points, not that bad. It's a little bit down from last year, but not enough to like have us pay attention. Okay, that's why I hate spreadsheets. Spreadsheets make stuff that's really emotional and serious. It makes it very neat. And so that people don't really pay attention. All right, Brenda, so what you want to do, you want to make the real stories visible. All right. So we recently worked with a big brand in South Africa. We engaged with their clients and we asked their clients, what was your experience like? And they were talking about how people disrespected their time, how they had to phone them over and over again, how this brand didn't give a shit, how cold they were, how, it's great when they do the marketing, but when you actually need something from them, they just don't give a shit. All right. So those were the stories we recorded. We then took those stories to the executives. Okay. And what did the executives do? They were on a meeting with us. They stopped looking at their email. They stopped looking at their WhatsApp, and they sat up straight and they actually listened. And they went like, this is terrible. How did this happen? And I go, well, it's all those freaking spreadsheets. Okay, while you're watching your spreadsheets, your customers are really, really unhappy with you. Okay, you've got to get with the program and pay attention. So Brenda, you need to take the real stories back to the executives. You need to play them calls. You need to make it human again. You need to get human interaction in there, because the spreadsheets are not helping us. The spreadsheets are removing executives from the customer. Okay, there's so many layers in between that people just they don't see the real story. All right, so that's the one thing. The next thing is, you might all be sitting with that vision of that person that's just not getting this. Okay, who's got a CFO or someone in the C-suite who just doesn't get this? Okay, you don't have to raise your hand. We all know that you've got those people. Okay, so they're constantly asking about the money. They're constantly like saying, but our processes are good. Let's just automate all of this. Let's get the people out of the picture and let's all put this on an app. Okay, you heard that before. Okay, no people, just robots and apps. Okay, so you need to look at that individual, Brenda, and you need to do an empathy map for that individual. So name them, whoever your boss is, whoever their boss's boss is, whoever the person is that's really a hard nut to crack around the stuff. And you need to do an empathy map for them. You need to say, what's keeping them awake at night? What are their fears? What are their challenges? Okay, what do they want? What will make them look successful? Because that's the only way in a big corporate environment. You either need to make someone look successful, all right, give them joy, or take pain away. Those are the only two things. That's why you have your job, so you can make your boss's job easier. Okay, people, that's how simple it is. That's how simple it is. If you lead your life like that, saying, I'm here to make whoever's higher than me, I'm here to make their jobs easier. And you really focus on, what do I do to do that? Then life's going to become a lot easier. I'm sorry that I only realized this like quite recently. I tell you, I made a lot of my boss's jobs a lot more freaking difficult because I didn't get this. Andre, I see you laugh with me, not at me. But I was called many, many things in my corporate career. And a lot of them was like high maintenance, pain in the ass, just won't go away. Okay, so I think if you really understand, and we're going to talk about empathy mapping, Johan's going to take us through some detailed empathy mapping on Wednesday. You can use this on your partner, your spouse, your kids, your boss, the person in your environment who gives you the most pain. Go and do empathy mapping for them, because it's going to change how you see them. It's going to change your approach. It's going to make your life easier. All right, Brenda, how's that for an answer to what seemed like a simple question? Okay, did that help? Okay, phenomenal. Okay, so excellent. Okay, so let me see what's going on in the chat. My team, you will help me if there's any questions in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, we have a few. Should I just read them out?
Go for it, Ashad.
So Matthew, I'm just going to read your message. I think Tess did respond to this. He reads, you mentioned the trigger in the customer journey. Will we be elaborating on that from a perspective of channels, traditional versus digital?
Matthew, we will absolutely. Matthew, when we get to the mapping of the journeys, we'll look at the different channels. I'll give you some guidance on how to map your journeys. I'll give you some guidance on how to map your journeys. And, if you do multi-channels, you can get lost very easily. And there's a lot of focus, Matthew, in many companies saying we want to drive the customer to the more cost-effective channel. Okay. And if you really love your customer, okay, you're not going to drive them. Okay, you're going to make it easy for them. And customers will, unfortunately, when you do your journeys, okay, they're going to mess up your journeys completely because they're not looking at it sequentially and they will switch channels. All right. And the important thing is that they don't get this inconsistency. You would have had this experience where you love a brand until you phone their call center and you go, oh my word, they definitely got their call center located on a different planet. It's actually not in this universe because it sounds nothing like them. And maybe they've outsourced it and it is really a different planet. But the thing is, if they designed it well, it shouldn't feel like a different planet. All right. Great. So we'll get to that. Next one, Arshad.
We have Willow. I believe it's Mike. Hope I remember that. He reads, do you distinguish between customer and client short-term versus long-term relationships? Or is that just semantics?
Yeah, so Mike, when I talk, it's just semantics. Okay. In financial services, people love calling the customer the client. Okay. And then, the customer more has a retail flavor to it. When we look at the journeys, we'll look at, someone that's just entered your journey. All right. So someone that's kind of in the honeymoon phase versus someone that's been with you for years. I had to actually threaten my bank last week saying, guys, get with the freaking program. I've been with you for 20 years. This is the first time that I've had this shit from you. No, this is it's like I've been married to them for so long. I'm not going to divorce them now because I'm just over getting someone else. They must just do what I want them to do. Okay, so we'll look at a little bit at what longevity of the relationship does to expectations.
Oh, I think that's about it from the chat.
Okay, fantastic. So, lovely people, I'm just quickly doing a time check. And Arshad, we scheduled for a break at 20 past, but I would say let's take that break now. And folks, how are we going to do this? We unfortunately going to have to sign off this Zoom. So we're going to quickly just switch off the Zoom. We're going to load your groups. And then we are going to be back at 15:15. So I've got on my watch now 11 o'clock. We're going to be back at 11:15. So as soon as we've loaded those groups, we're going to come back to this to the Zoom session, and you should be able to hop on again. All right. Just quick.